here with John Passalacqua from First Phosphate. We're going to learn something new today. It's an emerging new battery that's going to take up a lot more headlines, and John is an expert in the field. John, thank you so much for taking some time. Looking forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, hi Kevin, nice to be on.
So for any of you at home, you want to look at the stock. If you're a Canadian investor, it's PHOS.CN. If you're over in Europe, it is KD0. The company's First Phosphate. So John, for anyone who's not familiar with this story, why don't we just kick it off with a simple elevator pitch? What exactly is First Phosphate? What are you guys trying to do?
Yeah, so First Phosphate is a mineral development company, and we're fully focused on extracting and refining phosphate for production of lithium iron phosphate cathode active material that goes into lithium iron phosphate batteries.
So lithium iron phosphate battery, that's going to be a new one for a lot of people. Of course, people are more familiar with typical lithium ion. So can you tell us a little bit, what is a lithium iron phosphate battery? What's so special about it?
Yeah, so lithium iron phosphate battery is a type of lithium ion battery. Generally, people are most familiar with NMC batteries that are lithium ion batteries made out of nickel, manganese, and cobalt. So lithium iron phosphate battery fits in that family. It's just it's just a little bit different. It has a lower cost. It's got a better fire safety rating in general. They seem to last longer. And they seem to be more for shorter distances for city driving. They have their place within the lithium ion battery. The lithium iron, the NMC batteries being obviously a higher range and sometimes a little bit more power if you want to vulgarize it like that. But both batteries are very nicely complementary. That is the NMC family and the lithium ion family.
So lithium iron phosphate, that's LFP shorthand. Do we see this as a big growing market over time?
Yeah, what's really interesting is the lithium iron phosphate batteries have now grown to secure almost 50% of the global market. So we're at a really good stage where it's very complementary. NMC batteries are sitting at about 50% and LFP are sitting at about 50%. And if you look at the growth projections put out by various different groups, we're finding that it seems like they expect that trend to continue into the 2030 and beyond.
So to make an LFP battery, you obviously need phosphate. That's where you guys come in. That's upgraded to phosphoric acid. Why don't we talk a little bit about your deposit? Obviously, it's over in Quebec. What are some kind of significant, notable attributes about your mines?
Yeah, so the biggest attribute is that we're dealing with igneous rock. It's phosphate that comes from igneous rock, and so that makes it amongst the purest phosphate that you'll find in the world. And it's great because when you go into LFP battery, you need to create purified phosphoric acid. So the igneous rock allows us to create copious amounts of purified phosphoric acid without some of the residual problems that you would have with sedimentary deposits where you've got the big gypsum slag piles to deal with and other environmental issues. So basically it allows high purification and it allows to stay on the ESG scale, which is obviously very important for the battery industry.
And I think you're being humble there when you say high grade. I believe I read that it's top 1% of supply in terms of purity in your Quebec location. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, igneous and orthosite rock is 1% of the world's global phosphate stock. So yeah, it is an extremely pure form of phosphate that's found in igneous rock, yes. And we've done some work recently. We came out with a press release yesterday. You might have seen work we did with the University of Queens. They looked at the whole deposit and they said, definitely there's a lot of characteristics to it that would make it, a good ESG-driven type of deposit, and that's extremely important because, most of the rock in the world, the phosphate rock, is sedimentary deposit, and so it's got concerns with ESG. It's very difficult to process that on ESG scale. So yeah, we're very happy with it.
So with purity, is ESG kind of the main beneficial aspect of that, or is it also cheaper to upgrade or anything like that?
Well, okay, so yeah, you definitely, I think, as battery supply for LFP batteries, which is now mostly based in China, comes over to North America, the whole processing of it has to change. So, just the processing that we use to create purified phosphoric acid is very different. We use the wet method in the Western world as opposed to the thermal method, which creates a lot of CO2 and other pollution that's going on, in many of these factories in Asia. So, that's the one thing. The second thing is, you've got to get to a very high grade of high purity of purified phosphoric acid. So the input's very important. And also when you're dealing with this igneous rock, what's great about it is 90% of it can be purified from beneficiated phosphate rock to purified phosphoric acid, and only 10% would stay back in a fertilizer stream. So that's really important, and we can do that with our technology partner, which is Prayon. And so that's very different, because with sedimentary rock, usually you can only purify a much smaller quantity up to purified phosphoric acid.
Okay, well, the note on Prayon, that's a perfect segue. I was going to ask you about that next. That was obviously really big news recently. Investors seem to be all over it. The stock's done very well since then. Can we talk about Prayon? Can you maybe illustrate how big of a deal this is, how large of a company they are, and how you guys managed to get in there?
Yeah, so basically, Prayon is one of the global leaders in terms of purified phosphoric acid. There's no more than 4 or 5 companies in the Western world that produce purified phosphoric acid or who have the technology to do it. Prayon by far is the leader. They started the whole business of purified phosphoric acid in the 1950s, 1960s. They also do purification based on igneous rock. That's very important for us because we're an igneous rock based deposit. And so, our agreement with them is fourfold. First part, there's a potential offtake agreement where they would take a number of tons of our beneficiated phosphate rock to be able to purify it up to purified phosphoric acid in their plants in Belgium. Number 2, they would be willing also to toll process some of that rock for us and return to us purified phosphoric acid as we're building up our volumes. That's really important for a junior mining company like us, because it allows us to preserve capex. And then, number 3, they would be willing to actually transfer technology to us to be able to create a purified phosphoric acid plant in Quebec. And that's something that they don't do very often. They haven't done with really more than one other partner. So that's really important that they have the confidence in us to do that with us. And then number 4, we're studying very cautiously together the ability to move to an LFP cathode active material plant, working together with Prayon in North America. But I'm cautious on all these things. It's just the beginning. It's just an MOU, but we've got an excellent partner, and we're moving forward with them little by little every day.
Okay, so maybe as an educational moment, something that stood out to me about you guys is that we refer to you as a junior exploration company, but obviously I understand your aspirations are much larger than that. You're going to be much more vertically integrated than that. So 2 questions for you. First, can you maybe walk us through what the process is to go from phosphate rock to an LFP battery? And then let's kind of talk about your aspirations of where you'd fit in with that.
Yeah, so that's a great question, because that's actually what we're looking to do. We're looking to vertically integrate and to go from phosphate mine to LFP cathode active material. So basically, the first step is to mine the phosphate rock at the mine site. That's usually at 5 to 10% phosphate. And then what you do is you upgrade that at the mine site to about 40%. We're able to get to about 41 degree percent purity within a percentage of phosphate within apatite, which is the host mineral. The theoretical purity of phosphate in apatite is 42%. So you can see we get very close to theoretical purity, which is very rare. With sedimentary deposits, usually they only get to 30%. So with that high purity, then once we have that beneficiated rock, we then put that through a process where it becomes purified phosphoric acid. And once you have purified phosphoric acid, that is what goes into batteries. Purified phosphoric acid, about half the lithium that usually goes into NMC batteries, and iron sulfate. Those 3 elements come together, and they form the basis of the cathode active material that then goes into the lithium iron phosphate batteries.
And then which segment of this do you guys see yourself fitting into primarily?
So, I mean, like I said, we would do everything from mine all the way to production of LFP cathode active material, and then at that point, we would pass on the LFP cathode active material to others in North America who would create the battery cells that then go into the battery packs and into the EVs.
And speaking of battery packs and EVs, I was reading about you guys, and there was a quote somewhere about the percentage of these LFP batteries made in China right now, and it was virtually all of them. What was that percentage?
Yeah, I mean, you could say 100% are made in Asia, and then almost 95% in China. So it's
Hmm.
very high. Everybody, a lot of the EV companies are now starting to compete based on the LFP battery. You'll see the price cuts out of Tesla. A lot of that is based on the LFP battery. So, the auto manufacturers are starting to use these LFP batteries, but they're all coming from China. So, they'd like to onshore some of that for different reasons, especially even for the subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act. We need to onshore, right?
Right. And okay, maybe actually comment on that. You said the Tesla price cuts. I think we're all familiar with those. That's in some way connected to the LFP market. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so if you'll see, there's been a lot of announcements out recently from various manufacturers that they're moving to LFP battery. You've seen that out of Tesla. We've seen that out of Stellantis. We've seen that out of there's a number of them all across Europe, North America, and Asia. What ends up happening is, one of the other really big benefits of LFP is that it's about 50% to 66% cheaper than NMC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's quite a big difference. And the other thing to remember, Kevin, is that, in your traditional fossil fuel car, you see a battery, and it's just this little thing that with grease in the corner, right? But when you're talking a battery in an EV, it's actually the engine, right?
Right.
It's the whole engine. So these are very important components. So when you're slashing the price on a battery, some say the battery can be somewhere between 25 to 50% depending on the model and with whatever else is going on of the cost of the whole EV.
Oh,
Like
wow.
any kind of price differential that you can get on the battery and the battery chemistry itself is going to make
Mm.
a big difference in the price of the EV, which brings down the EV price, which allows for mass adoption. So you're going to see a lot of competition in the battery sector, on different chemistries, on different ways of slicing and dicing it and making it such that cost can come down. And LFP battery really fits into that segment.
Yeah, fascinating. No, I knew it was cheaper, and I knew I didn't realize that much cheaper. I knew it was a significant cost in an EV. I didn't realize it was that significant of a cost. So that's fascinating. So okay, well, let's see. Let's bring everyone up to speed, and then we can wrap this up because I know you're a busy guy. So we have an extremely high grade phosphate asset in North America, obviously a very friendly jurisdiction. Obviously, Quebec has a lot of benefits, and especially for you guys specifically in terms of access to port, hydroelectricity, friendly government. We're seeing a increasing demand for these LFP batteries, and we're seeing you guys being as well positioned with really high quality partners able to capitalize on this. Is that a fair summary of where we've come so far?
Yes, perfect. Yes, and we're much smaller mine size because we're just focused on LFP battery. We're not focused on fertilizers. We're
Right.
we're close to infrastructure. We're really trying to take phosphate and we're looking at we're looking at turning into what I call technological material, right? So that's a really high value added process, as opposed to a bulk process.
Certainly. And, and to the viewers, in case I didn't disclose earlier, I'm a shareholder of the company, a happy, proud shareholder, certainly. John, you're doing a great job. This whole market was somewhat, new to me until you brought it my way. And I've fallen in love with the story. I'm very fascinated by it, very impressed by your team. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. So investors at home, if you're Canadian, once again, that's PHOS.CN. If you're European, that is KD0. The company is First Phosphate. This is John Passalacqua, CEO. John, thank you so much for coming to educate us today and taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin. Look forward to continuing the dialogue with you and your users. Wish everybody the best.
Certainly looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Bye bye.